Stephen Doyle here with Kenny Cunningham in the aftermath of the Premier League action here at Craven Cottage. Chelsea beating Fulham by 2-1. Really interesting tussle, very open game, has to be said. Kenny, the right result?
Yeah, I think so. I think Chelsea just about deserved it. Huge amount of credit to Fulham for staying in the game for as long as they did. Showed a lot of heart, a lot of personality, never give up. I think tactically they were set up very well, good balance to the team. Didn't create maybe a huge amount of chances during the course of the 90 minutes, but they did carry a threat on occasions when they did manage to get a bit of possession to Chelsea half of the pitch. But Chelsea were generally the more assured team, more composed, and had the bigger threat in forward areas of the pitch with the likes of Higuain, obviously Hazard and Willian. So yeah, Fulham couldn't have too many complaints, Stephen. But I think they'll take a lot of heart from the manner of the performance, and maybe gives them, you could argue, a flicker going into the remaining 9-10 games of the season.
Yeah, I think West Ham are the only team who are 10 points adrift at this stage of the season to eventually survive. It doesn't happen very often, but when you get a new man like Scott Parker coming in there, he doesn't really have any managerial experience. So what's the best he can do for this club to try and give them some hope of staying up this season?
Well, it's just performance, the level of performance. You can never guarantee your results, but you can do your work on the training pitch with the team, get the tactical setup right. You can get into the heads of the players, make sure you build a little bit of confidence, which has taken a bit of a battering this season. I mean, it's been a struggle for them for the majority of this season, particularly defensively. They've leaked a huge amount of goals, so that's not easy to kind of turn that around. But I thought defensively they kept a good shape today. Didn't give up too many opportunities. Didn't see a lot of those individual errors that we've been seeing all season. So that will have heartened Scott Parker. And like I said, offered a bit of a threat going forward. Mitrovic was a little bit isolated on occasions. I thought young Sessegnon maybe struggled a little bit. He looked a little bit player bereft of confidence. So I think they'll take a little bit of heart from that. But for me, Scott Parker doesn't get this job on account of whether Fulham stay up or down. I think the owners are looking at him in terms of the level of performance he can get out of the players. Do the players respond to them? And does he, can he make an improvement to the team between now and the end of the season? And if he can do that, that'll give them a little bit of confidence in terms of maybe giving him the job on a more than a temporary basis moving forward, on a more of a permanent contract.
The other interesting thing is that he only made one change to the team that Claudio Ranieri last managed against Southampton during the week. And is that something important as well, where there is a temptation there maybe for a new manager coming in to make a raft of changes to see if he can kind of come up with some sort of remedy to their problems? But he's actually maybe trying to keep all the players on side and not to upset too many players in the dressing room, which is the last thing he wants to do. Yeah,
I think you're right. The temptation is maybe 4 or 5 changes, and it can be too much. That can totally unbalance the team. Maybe you just need to fine-tune it. I'm sure he'll have his own ideas. Maybe he sees things differently to Ranieri in terms of maybe tactically how he sets up the team. So that'd be interesting to see them going forward over the next couple of weeks, whether you see that type of improvement. And you saw the reaction of the Fulham supporters, Stephen, after the game. They clapped every single one of those Fulham players off the pitch, and that hasn't been the case. I listened to a few of the comments from the supporters behind us, and they were saying, well, that's a lot better. That's what we've been waiting for all season. So it's clearly they're happy with the level of performance they saw from the team today, and if they can replicate those performances between now and the end of the season, I still have grave reservations whether it's going to be enough to keep them up. I don't think it will, but I think that strengthens Parker's hand when he goes in to speak to the owners during the summer. Says, look, the players are behind me. I've got clear ideas in terms of what I need to do in terms of the tactical setup in the team. Give me the job and I can take this club forward.
Hopefully we might see a bit more of Cyrus Christie in the last few weeks as well, because Mick McCarthy is going to be naming his squad this week. We'll come to that in a moment. But just on Chelsea as well, Maurizio Sarri came into this game having lost the last 3 away matches, conceding 12 goals and not scoring any. So it was really important for them just to get an away win on the board. Yeah. We know they bounced back against Spurs during the week after all that carry on in Wembley last week in the League Cup final. So as I said, it was just really important to get some sort of win on the board away from home. Yeah,
it's been a good week off the back of the result against Tottenham, like you said. Always a potential banana skin here. You would have expected him to win the game. I like the changes he made to the team, Stephen. People might look at the team, Christiansen coming in, Emerson at left back, and saying, he's just rotating, giving David Luiz a rest. It might be interesting to see if that's the case, because for me that's the clear weakness in this Chelsea team, the partnership of Luiz and in the central defensive position, and Alonso in the left back position. They're making too many individual errors. I think they're weak down that side of the pitch. It doesn't help with Jorginho in front of them, so that's clearly an issue for me in the team. He must see it Saturday, and even those changes that he made today, bringing in Christiansen, for me is a better defender, more assured than David Luiz, and Emerson in the left back position made him a little bit more compact across the defensive line. I thought that defensive four looked solid, particularly the partnership of Rudiger and Christiansen in central defence. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out between now and the end of the season, because he's got to change something. This team at the moment may be good enough to win a Champions League place, but a team for me with Jorginho playing in the base of that midfield, David Luiz and Alonso at left back isn't good enough to win a championship, no matter how good the players are around them. So I'll be very interested to see how he tinkers with things between now and the end of the season, and whether he remains as loyal to those three players I've mentioned in particular between now and the end of the season.
His two star pupils got goals as well today. You might call them the teacher's pets. Gonzalo Higuain and Jorginho getting his first goal from play since he signed for Chelsea. Probably though really important for Higuain to get another goal on the board, because as I said during the commentary, he's only got that brace against Huddersfield. He's been getting chances, but again, it was just a really good striker's effort, wasn't it? Coming in at the near post there to flick that away, and he had a nearly identical chance as well later on in the game, but just important to get that other goal. Yeah,
brilliant centre forwards goal. We saw exactly today the type of service that Higuain needs. A couple of balls early on played over the top, hopeful balls. He just almost gave up the ghost. He knows he can't outrun 95% centre half, so when he comes alive is in around the penalty box, because the devastating pace isn't so much an issue then. It's all about the timing of the runs, and a couple of times he just checked his run, anticipated where the ball was going to be coming, made little darting runs in between defenders, got his goal, which was a great little finish, and almost got a replica in his second goal. But even a couple of balls from Jorginho over the top from slightly different positions, getting off the shoulder of defenders, making it difficult for them to pick him up. He never stands in front of centre half, Stephen, where defenders can see him and the ball. He's always working off the far shoulders, where defenders have to look for him all the time, and when they take their eyes off him, that's his trigger to make those runs in front of defenders. So he's a very clever operator, and he'll always score goals, but he is a centre forward who is very much dependent on the service that he's given.
So as we come into the closing stage of the season, the top four race, well, it looks like obviously Liverpool and Manchester City are going to take the top two places. Spurs are almost getting dragged back into that battle for the third and fourth positions. Chelsea are in there. They've got a game in hand, not too far behind United and Arsenal. So it's really four teams going for two spots. Who can you see emerging victorious at the end of the season?
Oh, it's a great call, it really is. I'm going to stick with Spurs for one of the remaining two spots. Obviously we know Manchester City and Liverpool will fight out for the top two. I'm going to stick with Spurs, although they've lost their mojo a little bit of late, and as you say, they're getting reeled in a little bit into this race for the championship places, but I still feel as if they'll have enough, and then it's the last place, and a fight between Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United. I just feel as if in terms of momentum, I look at Manchester United, I don't expect to stay in the Champions League after next week. I think they'll be out, and if that's the case, they can really play week to week between now and the end of the season. Really good feel-good factor around the club at the moment. Teams playing well, playing with confidence, and players really look to be pushing each other and are really together. So if you had to make me choose between Chelsea, Manchester United and Arsenal for that remaining place, I'd probably lean towards Manchester United.
So before we let you go, Kenny, just mentioned there Mick McCarthy naming his first Ireland squad this week ahead of two big games for him, his opening European qualifiers against Gibraltar and Georgia. It's probably it is the ideal start for him, but is there any kind of players, any names that you'd like to see in there in particular? Do you think he's going to make a huge amount of changes to the squads that Martin O'Neill was naming, only less than a year ago?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a huge amount of surprises, maybe one or two. I'm really looking forward to the games. That's the first thing I'd have to say. It seems it's such a long time since I sat and watched an Irish team playing. Obviously the last year or so, maybe even beyond that, it's been a little bit of a tough watch. The team has been playing well, struggling for confidence a little bit, struggling to create chances. So the change was made. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Mick sees it, how he sets up the team. Hopefully get a good reaction from the players. There's a good start for us, I think. Gibraltar away and Georgia home. And I think when you've had limited time with the players, which Mick has had, he'll only have them for a week, 5 days to a week in the lead up to the game. I think these are the fixtures that you wanted. We wouldn't have gone to the game against Switzerland and Denmark as your first 2 games. So for me, I'm expecting a reaction from the players. I'm expecting 6 points. Hope that's not putting too much pressure on Mick and the lads, but that's what I'm expecting. If we can get that, hopefully we can build that kind of momentum, a little bit of confidence, start coming back into the team for the bigger games which lie ahead in the group.
As an ex-centre half yourself, can you build a team around a centre half? And I'm speaking about in particular Shane Duffy, who really is our best performer in the Premier League this season. And can you build a team around a top defender, or do you need to look further up the pitch? Do you need to find somebody to try and build a team around?
I think there is the spawn of a team there we can build. Shane Duffy, of course, for reasons has been a standout performer for a year or two now, but I still looked at that central midfield area, Jeff Hendrick, Robbie Braden. Now Robbie hasn't had too many minutes under his belt, but they're still key for me. We have to get more out of those players. We haven't seen the best of them in an Ireland jersey for the past couple of years. Jeff in particular, the goal threat he's got to find more goals because he's got it in him. Robbie as well can play a few different positions, but I still think potentially in a midfield 3 he could best serve the team as well, because I think in the full back areas now the likes of Seamus, Matt Doherty, Enda Stevens are reasonably obviously very well served in those areas. So maybe we can utilise Robbie, his tenacity, his quality on the ball, and give us a little bit more of a creative edge in that central area of the pitch. James McCarthy coming back as well. So for me, there's a team that Mick can build around Shane Duffy that you've mentioned. Obviously those full back Seamus experience, those midfield players I've already mentioned. The more interesting one is maybe the wide areas and high up the pitch. Callum Robinson has really impressed me over the last year. He's been a standout player. It's really shone in kind of a struggling team. Whether Mick plays with a bit of natural width in the team, narrows up a little bit, defensive for wing backs, that'll be all very interesting to see how Mick sees it. But I'm expecting a reaction from the players. I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully 6 points under the bag. And not just the point. I know people say it's all about the result, but performances matter for me. Get the performances right and the results will follow. So hopefully that'll be the case.
Right, well, Kenny's off to do his crossword in the Sunday Indo on the train the way home. I'm off to find a hairdryer to get a quick blow dry before I get the plane back to Dublin. But of course you can get plenty of feedback and chat about the games, the football we've seen over the weekend and off the ball tomorrow, and of course on our social media channels. So stay tuned.